Welcome to the Ghost Talkers podcast, the show dedicated to unsolved history and paranormal mystery. Each week, we delve into something new, from true ghost stories to conversations with psychics, authors, historians, and the dead. If you're scared right now, it's probably because you just listened to Ghost Talkers podcast.
Hello and welcome. I'm investigative medium Laine Crosby, here with my co-host, historian and Ghost of Gettysburg author Mark Nesbitt, and you're listening to Ghost Talkers on the ghostchannel.tv. Today, I'm pretty excited. We have special guest Alexandra Holzer. Now, I know some of you are scratching your head saying, wait a minute, I know that name sounds awfully familiar. Well, Alexandra's father, Hans Holzer, is the father of paranormal investigation. That's right, Dr. Hans Holzer. He's written over 146 books on the paranormal, and he was the original paranormal investigator on the Amityville horror case. His 146 titles fall within the genres of supernatural, religion, healing, parapsychology, as well as some fiction. He's most known for the adaptation of his book Murder in Amityville for the film Amityville 2, The Possession, and also for Ghost, America's Haunted House, The UFO Knots, The Journey of the Magi, and Murder in Amityville, Fact or Fiction, a compilation of all these books he had written on the case. But today, Alexandra's on our show, and she's just completed a great book entitled Growing Up Haunted, which I'm looking forward to discussing today on our show. In this book, she discusses life growing up with her father, his investigations, her investigations, and life at home with her family, and some of the other folks that may have come home with her dad. Alexandra's mother is a very accomplished artist, the Countess of Baron, from a Russian family, and Alexandra has the talent of both her parents and has been both a graphic designer in her native New York City, as well as a sensitive and intuitive, and she has the gift of discernment as her father does as well. And if you know me, I must mention what I feel Alexandra's most amazing accomplishment is. She's a mother of 4. And I know that you're going to enjoy Alexandra as much as Mark and I have. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Alexandra.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, same here. I was looking forward to this. You seem such like a sweet, sweet person. It was just a wonderful connection.
Alexandra, are you in New York City right now?
Yeah, I'm an hour from the city. I grew up in the city, and we are an hour from there. So we're in the town of Chester. So if you're familiar with Monroe Woodbury Commons, which is a huge shopping area, we're not far from there.
Okay, I'm not familiar. My wife probably would be familiar with that, but I'm not. But you're sort of based in New York City, right?
Yeah, well, I'm from there. I grew up there. My father's still there. My mother's in Southampton, Long Island, the Shishi end. My sister's in Riverdale, New York. So we're all a bunch of New Yorkers still, admirably. So we're all here.
Well, that's if you want to be in writing and publishing and be an author, that's a pretty good place to be. As always.
Oh yeah, I think New York and Chicago and LA are the hubs of business. But I like that there are other towns in the surrounding areas that have publishing houses and that are smaller. I think those are a little bit more intimate, and you'll get, I think, better care. So kind of moving away from that cityness, if you will. So.
Well, good. Yeah, I kind of have lived in the country. After I left Cleveland at 18. Yeah. Kind of lived, in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for a while. Now we live on the Chesapeake Bay. So, it's not real good as far as making contacts in the publishing world, but it sure is relaxing when it comes to writing,
You can write your novel, but you have nowhere to put it. That's great. Yeah.
Bingo.
Good Lord.
You are sensitive, right?
I am.
Okay, and now here's a question I have, because I am not, okay?
I could have told you that, but go ahead.
See? There you go. But does that, when you're doing your research, when you're on site, is that a help, or can it be a hindrance?
Well, it depends, because when you're sensitive, and this is a term that's been around in my father's day. He actually used that word a long time ago. I just know we're reusing it, like we're recycling. You know, the bell-bottom jeans came back. It's the same thing, mediumship, all that. You're like that 24/7. So whether you're going on a location that you know there's haunted history, or you need to find out more information but there's something going on, or you walk into a place that you feel something but you have no clue why, that's like every day for me, you know. So it's not, I don't think it's a hindrance or anything. I kind of think it's just we all have the ability, the innate ability of our sixth sense, and whether or not we tap into it is really when it's our time to open up and realize it. And some people are born that way. Other people have to achieve it at a later part in their life because they're not ready yet. And some people pass without ever knowing their sixth sense because they're just so closed off. And so for me, I'm more open now because of my own awakening versus, you know, maybe 10 years ago. But as a kid was obviously the widest because, you know, everything was magical, and I grew up in such a manner that it was normal to have the paranormal in my home. So it's every day. So if I walk into a place and I feel something, that's typical.
You know, I could just about hear Laine smiling on the other end when you said it comes to some of us late in life because that's what happened to her. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I don't understand it because I haven't opened up yet, I guess, for that. But
2 more years. No,
2 more years, and I'll be
2 more years. You know, I don't practice it. I don't sit and I don't focus. I don't meditate. I have 4 noisy ghosts, so I don't think I'll ever get to that point. And when I do, it's going to be after the bottle of wine and some hair dye because it's just insane over here. But you know, I mean, it does hit you when it is quiet or when you're in that moment, and then something comes through and you kind of have to hear it. Some people may never achieve it, but if they're, you know, open to the idea, you're already becoming sensitive. If you're working with people like Laine and you're involving yourself in trying to get answers to what happens when people are stuck and they need to cross, and if they don't want to cross, and are they bad, are they good, and are they causing ruckus, or are they just there and you want to know and help them or have a conversation, you can be investigative and not be sensitive. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, as long as you're open to learning. Like in general with anything in life, I think that's being a great person, and I don't think you have to, you know, turn sensitive or feel that the need to fulfill all those shoes because you're in an industry where it taps into all these different parts, you know, between being a medium, an investigator, an author, documentation, you know, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it doesn't, as long as you're just a good person, it'll come to you anyway. I mean, whether you have a dream or somebody passes, you'll be affected somehow. You may not know it right away, but you're being affected. See, that's the tricky part of those who are around you. They can kind of come and go as they please, and they can kind of play around with your mind a bit, and you don't even know what's happening.
You know, one of my theories, and I think you're living proof of this, one of my theories is that so many of us, when we're young, you know, are sensitive and talk about, you know, call them imaginary friends or whatever you want, but we have spirits with us when we're young, but our parents say, you know, they you know, red flag goes up and they're like, oh my gosh, don't talk about that, you know, when you go to school. So they kind of snuff it out at a young age, whereas you had a perfect opportunity. In fact, growing up haunted, I mean, that's the name of your book, and I mean, you had a perfect opportunity to, with your dad and your mom to develop this. So, you know, you're living proof of what one of my theories. I think that's neat.
Yeah, I didn't choose it. It chose me, but I was already chosen from birth. It already happened. My parents were chosen for me, and you know, you couldn't have picked the worst pair of people to get married because they just were so opposite. But for 10 years out of the marriage, they worked together, you know, perfectly. She did the haunted art. He did, you know, the research and the investigation and pioneered it and brought it to your homes on TV saying, look, this is a ghost. It's okay, folks. I'll tell you why. You know, and my mother painted the some of the places they visited, whether it was in Ireland or in New Jersey. And he brought out that in her, and in him, she brought out the sensitivity part of you know, just how to cope with people and deal with people because he's so scientific and he can be very harsh and very rude at times. And so my mother softened that, and he allowed her that world to open up artistically and do something that wasn't really being done, painting haunted places. I mean, who would have thought, you know? And it became popular in the city. So For those brief moments, and then my sister and I were born, and we're 8 years apart in age, and you have to ask yourself and wonder. There are reasons why, and you have to kind of get from point A to point B to achieve C, and it's not always that neat. And so I think we kind of went around a bit and ended up somewhere at F or I don't know. But I could have had all the opportunities to develop it. I had things happen to me, obviously, but I just put it on the side, so that's nice. Something walked by me. Okay, and I'm going to go now. Have a nice night, folks,
Yeah. That's great.
I didn't look for it. I could have. It was in my home and around me, and I think now because it's so popular because of cable, my father's day, they didn't have cable.
Right.
So everything was really the tools that you had and your intelligence and your education and the time that it would take to document the case, that you weren't going to go into a home and get everything, an apparition on film, and walk out and say, thanks so much, thanks, ghost, have a good night, thanks for cooperating. It doesn't work that way. So we speed everything up now in society because we can, because we're a quick society between, the Internet and cable shows, and everything's changing, and it's not bad, but with the good comes the bad, in the sense of you have to be careful because too much of a good thing leads to an overspill of, okay, now everybody's doing it, and who's the real and who's the fake, and
yes.
So it backfires. So I'm trying to just kind of stay in the middle of the fence and say I'm skeptical in some areas. I don't believe in everything, and I don't think there's one person on God's green earth that doesn't. If they do, I'd like to meet them, because you have to question things in life. You can't just, and even if we have all the information on something and something else happens a few years later that kind of debunks that information, we have to go back and recognize it and say, okay, what does that mean? And accept it and not get all pissy and say, well, I'm certain it's this. How can you be? You're a human being. You're not a robot. You're not programmed.
Well, it sounds like, I know you inherited a little bit of the artist from your mom, but it sounds like you got a lot of the scientist from your dad too, because that's the way I like to look at these things. There's so many things on TV now that your dad's probably laughing at, just like you are.
He's frustrated. And, he says it in his accent. He says, "Garbage ghost hunting. What is this, ghost tours? That's insane. They go looking for the dead. What, for money?" I said, "Well, what do you want from me?"
Yeah. He was, but his techniques still stand. That's the.
That's why I love the two of you. I actually saw you guys on that episode that you did for Gettysburg, and I'm friends with the guys from Ghost Hunters. I work with them at the conferences, and we email, and I have respect for everybody that's doing well, because I don't wish ill on anybody. But at the same time, I have a right to my beliefs and theories, and that I wouldn't do it a certain way. I would do it a different way. And as you know, as an author, when you're writing a show and you're coming up with your own vision, you can have more control over how you see things versus just hosting something or just doing the investigation. So that's where I come from. And when I saw the two of you, I said, God, they're so real, and there's no jazzed-up music. It wasn't like all this editing spliced in. It was just this beautiful location of a very historical place that had so many stories yet to still be told, because so many people perished, and you have to kind of wad through all those lost souls, if you will. And you guys were just, I said, this is great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's our technique. A lot of people say, you should use scientific instruments and you don't use a medium or this or that. But the way, you get your information from wherever you can. The history is there. That's undeniable in Gettysburg. By the way, I just wanted to ask, have you ever been to Gettysburg?
I haven't. I've been asked that a lot, and people are like, oh, I'm going up so-and-so weekend. I said, I want to get there. I wanted to film. I've written so many different shows now to appease so many different producers, and I've been going back and forth for a year, and that's my path. It's I've met some pretty great people, and they believe in me, but we're not there yet. And one of the places I put, because of course my father wrote about Gettysburg, and there's two inns, I believe, that were there that had their own stories to tell. And so I wanted to go there and reinvestigate those places that he had been to, if they were still standing even. So I hope to.
If you do, let us know. We'll be glad to take you around to some of the places, because I think what's happened is that, two things have happened in Gettysburg. There's the obvious people that, obviously are trying to make money off of this thing, and But then there are other legitimate places, the places that we went to that have legitimate stories that you can't, they reoccur time and again, and we'll take you to the real deal.
Yeah, I'd love that.
But I'd love to see as a sensitive how it would hit you, because every person we've brought to Gettysburg who is a true sensitive is just overwhelmed by
Bring your
what
vitamins.
they see. What's that? What was that?
Bring your vitamins.
My fighter.
Yeah.
That and the bottle of wine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I walked into one of the facilities there, if I just walked on the grounds, I would be pretty shaken, because when I'm out at night walking the little Shih Tzu that we rescued, that's the 5th child. The husband's the 6th. So we saved the 7-year-old Shih Tzu, and I'm outside, and I look up and I look around, and it's quiet, and I could feel things just kind of looking at me, if you will, and I kind of stand there like, that's nice, okay, stay over there, I'll stay here. I know I'm always feeling things, especially when it's quiet, because you pick up on things, and I know it's quiet out there, especially where you guys go. You have the ability to have that peace and quiet to really hone in on who needs to say something, what's going on, and what the impressions were. It's not just that it's haunted. There are impressions from the past. It doesn't necessarily mean in this place there's a ghost. It just means there's these impressions of those ones that were there.
Exactly. And, as I've told Mark, I didn't have this until a couple of years ago, and it's because I moved from the city out to a very rural place.
Wow.
And it was quiet. Of course, then my kids came home from school. And I live in a house like yours. It's a circus.
Oh, yeah.
But, I've been listening to you today, and certainly there are so many dimensions to you. And both of your parents they're brilliant and they're artistic, and I know you got so much from them.
Right.
Who do you think that you are the most like?
It's almost like it'd have to be a split in between, because on the one half, 50% of me is my father now, obviously, since I've had my awakening, so we would say probably in the past 4 or 5 years, where I am scientific and I need to find out why. What did this, come to? Why did that happen? Versus, I believe in it, okay. That's the part of me, and the curiosity and the ballsiness is my father. That's me. I'm very ballsy. I try not to say anything incorrectly. I don't hurt anybody. I'm always being hurt, actually, but I get to a point where I feel like, no, this is what I believe in, and that's it. If you don't like it, that's fine. I can't please you. I can't please my children every day. If you think I'm going to worry about pleasing you, please get out of town. So that's the one. And the entertaining side, that's my father, because he was the entertainer. He'd always like to tell his ghost stories. He'd give you everything. You come into the apartment, and he'd feed you, take care of you. As long as you sat and listened to him, he was happy. On the side of my mother, it's all the art, because she basically, as the painter, and I followed suit, was going to the same college as her, and I didn't even know it at the time, because as a teenager I could care less. I didn't follow them.
Right.
Yeah, my father came out with another book. I'm like, that's nice. Oh, look, I'm on, Channel 7 tonight with an interview. I'm like, that's nice. I didn't pay attention.
Right, that was normal to you.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's good. I went on and I did my thing. So the art all comes from my mother. But the ability to be sensitive is both my parents, because my father is sensitive and has family members on his side. And on my mother's side, her mother, who I wrote about in the book and told her life story, my grandmother, who's Parisian, she's sensitive, and her sister was sensitive. They would hear furniture during the First World War when they'd moved around in the hallway. They'd hear furniture creaking and moving.
Wow.
Wow.
We need to break for a quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Experience Gettysburg's only bed and breakfast located right on the national battlefield. Situated on the site of the fierce fighting of July 1st, 1863, today the Doubleday Inn serves as your oasis of peace on the Gettysburg battlefield. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance, attention to detail, and exceptional customer service that have made us Gettysburg's premier lodging destination. Hosting discerning travelers for more than 20 years, the Doubleday Inn features 9 guest rooms with private baths, each decorated in unique country fashion with Civil War accents and antiques. Enjoy all the comforts of home, including candlelit country breakfasts, tea and cookies each afternoon, central air, Wi-Fi access throughout, and panoramic battlefield views from every window. Is the Doubleday Inn haunted? Well, our guests tell hundreds of stories, and we invite you to come investigate for yourself. We're located directly across from Iverson's Pits, site of one of the original Gettysburg ghost stories. History and hospitality await at the Doubleday Inn. Visit doubledayinn.com for photos, descriptions, rates, and availability. Don't miss your chance to sleep on the battlefield tonight.
You know, I went and I looked at your mom's art, and oh, it is just so beautiful. Her paintings are delicious to look at.
Yeah.
And your father, he's 138 books, 148 books?
We're at 146, and over 30 are in reprint, and they're always reprinting them because, you know, if UFOs are big, the UFOnauts will be reprinted. It's pretty much how it goes, you know. It's like whatever's big now. And I think one of the best books that are out there for him is the book called Ghosts, because it has like 700 pages of everything. But
which I have on my shelf, by the way.
Oh God, that's like a nightstand. But you know, that's for further use.
It's a great book.
It's really your Bible because it has all these great stories in there. And then he did The Spirit Connection. We published for the first time as father and daughter with Schiffer, which is out in Pennsylvania. He came out with The Spirit Connection, which is like a quick handbook, you know, to explain about the spiritual side of things. So it wasn't just all about the harshness of it. There's a softer side to it, and you know, so basically that's kind of, you know, I think where my mother comes from with her art is she picked up on that, and I think he taught her that. So, but I think I'm definitely a bit of both of them, a good 50-50 mix.
There, in part of your bio, it talks about this past February you helped to coordinate the exhibit for the New Orleans Haunted Mortuary Museum. I'll bet you that you and my wife Carol and I were in New Orleans probably about the same time. We were there in February too for a ghost conference.
Ah, how cool!
So, but could you tell me a little more about that New Orleans Haunted Mortuary Museum? Your involvement?
Yeah, I basically, my mother's going down there in the fall with her partner to actually showcase her haunted art. And I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, her partner had already spoken to them probably a few months prior to me because I had joined MySpace. And I had found them on there, and I had read an article that they were looking for people to donate art and all sorts of things from the paranormal field. And so I said, well, I'll donate my book and my father's books. I'll buy some of his and send them out. And so it became this project where we were doing the Holzer Bucks Hoveden thing because I said, well, you know who my mother is. So they said, that would be great. And then I tell my mother, look, I've got, you know, both families exhibiting at the Haunted Mortuary. And after they were hit with Katrina, I said, they're rebuilding it. I said, this is really exciting. And my mother says, oh, we know them. We're going there in the fall to exhibit. I said, well, isn't this a small world? So
Wow.
So it was a kind of an interesting connection because what's going on is I help with the backstory with my father, and we've written together, and I'm carrying on his work to some degree and doing radio the way he did and hopefully TV and things. And on the other side, there's my mother. For the first time, we're connecting on an art level. And so it's really quite interesting. So it's really a mother, father, daughter team. And not to leave out my sister, but she's not, you know, not part of it in that sense. So.
Okay, but New Orleans, how do you like New Orleans? That's a pretty good place.
Well, I didn't go. I wasn't there. I didn't go down there. I did everything. I sent them everything. I set up video footage, all sorts of things like that, and I sent it out to the coordinator, this woman named Dina. And they were frustrated because they had the main post office still wasn't functioning.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So you had to be careful of where you were sending things and stuff. But I have yet to go down there. My mother's going in the fall, and they're going to be exhibiting her art there. So I'd like to get down there.
There's another place that'll probably blow your sensitive mind.
Uh-oh.
But, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff down there, and you know, that's the center for the Haunted America Tours, which is where the website, they have honored us a couple of times with some awards, but it's a great city, and there's a lot of spiritual activity down there.
Yeah.
Even from Katrina, I was talking to a friend down there, and he said that some of those underpasses where they people perished, there's activity. There's activity right now. So
that's so sad, though. See, that's what kills me. I know, like, a lot of ghost teams get excited and think, okay, let's go. And there's a part of me that says, yeah, but it's so sad.
I agree. Yeah,
people are gone. It's sad.
Yeah, there's a sad part to it too. I mean, it's one thing to try and do an investigation with people who've been dead 150 years, but it's another thing.
Right. Well, yeah. They've been there for 150 years. They've seen you. You've seen one investigator. You've seen them all. You've got the two ghosts standing there, and they're like, "We've got company, Joe." It's like another one. Oh, jeez. This is what happens. But if I'm just terrible, I'm telling you. But if they're newly perished, if you will, it's oh my God. I mean, how long have they been there? Do they even know? Are they still confused? I mean, it's just totally different situation.
If in Gettysburg we have spirits 150 years later that are confused, which we do.
Yeah,
goodness,
I believe
must be. Newly dead people can be really.
I mean, exactly. I mean, can you imagine now? I mean, it's and also the fact that they're there for such a long time. It's nobody's come to get them. I mean, I have a lot of questions on that. How come when that happens that there aren't any guides that come and try to pull them towards the light, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't that happen? Is it that they're refusing, and if they still refuse because they were once of the living and we have the free will, is it that they still have that even though that they're physically not here anymore to say, I don't want to go, and then there's nothing that the guide can do and they can only return upon the next visit? I mean, I'm curious.
Well, we've had several...
There are probably half a dozen answers and half a dozen more questions on that same topic, and I agree with you. I'm as confused as you are, and I would like to know the answers to some of those questions as well, and that's, I guess, why we're in this business.
Yeah.
Well, we've had several situations in Gettysburg where, Patty Wilson and I have worked together, and we've actually been led by other spirits to places where there have been guides and other spirits that were their friends that had been trying to cross them over for 150 years.
Wow.
And because they didn't know they were dead, they couldn't see them. It was like we sort of feel a spirit of a loved one there, but we think we're crazy if we're not a medium, Oh, it can't really be. That was the situation with the deceased. They thought they were still alive. They thought, oh, it can't really be.
Wow.
And so it was...
Well, that makes sense because, I mean, we don't know unless we're gone. And the bottom line is if we pass and we're stuck, we have blinders on because we can't accept the fact that we're gone because we don't realize we've been disembodied from ourselves, and here we are, and we're wandering around, and we don't want to accept the fact. And I think a lot of it has to do with how we were as people on Earth. So if we're a difficult personality, perhaps one that passes in that manner will be difficult to cross. I don't know. I mean, I just I feel sad, and nothing surprises me if they can't see or hear that the guides are coming. I just feel like the higher-ups should kind of, kick open that door and say, okay, listen, hello, you've been dead, let's go, okay?
I know.
Job done.
I know. Forget free will, come on.
Yeah, I mean, really, you need that. You need the higher-ups to just say, excuse me, Angel 1 and 2, you're not doing the job. Go back upstairs. I will handle this. Thank you.
Well, that is, and I know that's one of the things that your father wrestled with. One of the philosophies is, do we retain any of our personality when we die? Is that a part of us that goes on? And apparently, from everything I've collected, I'm sure he has and you have, it seems that's right. You're right on when you say, there are people who are stubborn or maybe confused or maybe angry still, and they won't move on, and that obviously that indicates personality.
Yeah, it does. I mean, how could it not? Not for every single person that's perished and they're stuck, but just as a generalization, it's possible to retain that memory, especially if we're stuck and we can't see the guides coming because we don't know we're dead, because we're not accepting of it. It has to be part of our persona of who we were. And, I think that the whole term spirit means free. You're free spirit. You can come and go as you please, whereas a ghost is stuck. They've got so many issues. I think we need a ghost therapist That's the next thing we need to get. Sit down with them. Tell me your problem. I've been here for 100 years. Okay. And why aren't you leaving? I don't know. I hear they're coming. I can't see them. Okay, do you need glasses? Should we work on that? And,
Alexandra, there's someone in Gettysburg right now calling a sign maker to start their new business, ghost therapy. You've just given some entrepreneur in Gettysburg a new business.
Well, why not? You have to share it. Listen, it's true. I think what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to communicate on a level where I just want to know how they're doing. Instead of focusing so much on crossing, if we can't cross them, then there has to be some other function that we can do. It can't go on like this forever. Maybe we can talk to them. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they just want to be recognized and, not made to feel like, okay, well, if you're not going to cross, have a nice day, goodbye. Just say, are you okay? Do you feel cold? Do you feel anything? What is it like for you? Do you know where you are?
That would be great. Yeah, that's a terrific idea. We need to do more of that.
Yeah, and that's being sensitive in the term of just being a sensitive person, a soul. Let's find out a little bit more about what they're going through.
And so many psychics put a lot of emphasis on crossing them over, and they say, "Oh, well, do you cross them over?" And I try to pray for them. I think prayer is key in all of this as well, because also reaching people now while they can hear us, while we have media. Because if we can get them now while they're alive, then maybe they won't be in that situation.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's why I want to be able to get my show going too. Is not because everybody wants one now or they all have groups. It's my father was on air. He wrote for TV. It's really very normal for me, but I just have to climb a little bit harder up that mountain to prove myself because it's just that more competitive, and the fact that it's just exploding everywhere. So I have to try to separate myself and say, no, this is what I want to do. I have serious work to do, but I can't be serious when I'm doing it. In other words, I need to appeal to our youth because I think so many are getting the wrong message, and it's very damaging.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We see it all the time, in some of the programs on TV when they deal with nothing but demons. That's terrible. Obviously, and and from your father's work, we understand that most ghosts are benign. They just want to be noticed. They're not out to harm it. Out of 1,000 stories that I've collected at Gettysburg, only one indicates any kind of an aggression causing pain to someone. But you see it on TV if you're a kid, and all of a sudden you seriously could be psychologically damaged by thinking there are demons all around me. That's that making that little thing under your bed, that demon under your bed or whatever, even worse when you're 6 years old, for crying out loud.
Well, that's the thing. It's not. I don't. And I think it's the network's responsibility. But that's not any different. There's so many shows on air that are not paranormal that shouldn't be on air. So why would this be any different? For me personally, I just need to achieve a better way of going about it, and hopefully have longevity and respect, versus getting a quick fix and saying, I was on air for a year, but I didn't get picked up for a second season. I just kind of feel that there is a grumbling going on in the paranormal field, that there is a lot of disrespect, and there's a lot of stupidity, if you will. And while we have the ability to have the media, use it properly. Don't use it to go and start getting ratings or come up with things that aren't there, or just doing it in such a way that you're using scare tactics. Then go see a horror film. But don't put it on prime time when you know that you've got teens watching it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's it's such a shame. And I'm happy for those that are successful. I hope that they have their own paths and they learn, and it's not for me to judge them. But personally, I just feel that there are other ways to go about it, and can be just as successful by getting out the message and doing what you want to do, in the field. So.
Right. Well, there is a quote that I think that is a beautiful quote by your father that I wanted to read.
Okay.
The other side tends to confirm what most religions teach. If it weren't for the facts of parapsychology, religion wouldn't have a leg to stand on. Religion takes some of the evidence, which we know in parapsychology, and uses it for its own end to distort the truth to get people to obey. I'm not against organized religion, but spirituality is not religious. Spirituality is a way of life. You don't need intermediaries for that. And I think he also says, there's no supernatural world. Everything exists as natural.
Yep, it is. This is the law of nature.
That's great.
This is it. It's true, though. It's, I think we're superimposed on each other. Everybody's looking up towards the sky for heaven. Are you there? It's almost like I think that they come down and knock you on the head. Hello, right above you, 2 feet up. Okay, yeah. In this sense, we say they're very far out. So if we can't have somebody come in, like if Aunt Jessie can't come in, but Uncle Jim can, it's because she's further than him and she doesn't need to come in. When we say that the term far away, it means physically, but they're always near if they have to be. There's a difference of the need of what their purpose is versus what we're used to as walking around as living souls. There's 2 different functions going on. And it's natural, and we live and we die, and we evolve. It's evolution, and dying is all part of it, and existing after in the afterlife is all part of it. And we're very small, and to think that that's it when we go and it doesn't continue is really quite egotistical and really very stupid. And so you kind of have to ask those questions, and he feels and still feels, what is the big hubbub? What's the big deal? And that's why when he came out in the 60s and people were like, whoa, he was like, people, this is what happens when we go. Let's understand it better, and let's get all the documentation so that we can share the story so that you understand you're not alone. And when you get that visit, now you'll understand why. And that it's a comfort rather than a scary moment, So it's very natural.
Alexandra, that is so close to my own philosophy about this, and I talk about it all the time because I used to be a park ranger at Gettysburg, and people would come in all the time and they'd ask, are there any ghosts here at Gettysburg?
Right.
Officially, we had to say, no, there are no such things as ghosts. That's the official party line, right?
Right.
But personally then, after we said that, we'd say, why? What happened? Tell me. And that's where actually my first book came from, and getting reports of all these stories from people that would come in and have had an experience there. And it's sad because I think the government itself, not just on that level, but in many levels, like Blue Book and UFOs and things like that, wants to protect us, I guess, and deny all this stuff when it's right there. It's like your father said, it is not supernatural; it's natural.
Right.
This is and start paying attention to this because we're all headed towards death.
Right.
We're not all going to go to outer space, and we spend all kinds of money on that.
Right.
We're all going to the land of death. And so maybe we ought to know a little more about this before we do. So
well, be prepared. I mean, it's like the moment you're born, you're dying. I mean, that's evolution. It doesn't. It just keeps going. And so, I think supernatural comes from Hollywood, to be honest with you. And it's so frustrating because look, I love fantasy and magic. I'm like a female Harry Potter without the broomstick. I'm still waiting for one. I swear to God, I'm like, where is it? I know I have to have it somewhere. It's got to be in the family closet somewhere. But it just and to create something on film is magical and beautiful. And but there's so much stuff out there where you're like, what is this? And I think it just becomes this, Hollywood effect, and with society, and we're growing up so quickly and the stuff, that I think our job is to pull in and say, okay, wait a minute, slow it down. You've got those that are speeding it up. You need those that are going to slow it down a bit and re-educate people. And my job is to re-educate people who don't know who Dr. Hans Holzer is. And those who do say, okay, well, this is what he's doing now, or this is what I'm going to do to help him, and he's not going to be here for much longer, so you should know who he is, and then put that as a piece of history and keep on, learning what you need to learn.
Well, and also I think, there's going to be a rebound. In other words, there's so much stuff out there now on TV that's kind of garbage, kind of crappy. It's going to rebound. And I think the key is that we got to start getting National Geographic Channel interested in this type of thing rather than the Sci-Fi Channel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, I'm really interested in learning more about, I have a quote from you here. As a kid, I experienced a lot of weird things. I'd love to know what it was like growing up in your house. I know you've said here what was paranormal was normal to me. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of things as a child, now that I sort of had an awakening, I look back and go, oh, yeah, I kind of thought that was normal. Now I'm realizing that was a little bit paranormal. Right. At what point did you realize that the normal was paranormal and that your dad was a little bit different than other people's dads? And
right.
What were some of the things that happened around you?
Well, the first inkling I had was when my mother started wrapping up his books as presents for school. I went to prep school, so of course those were with the Shishi kids where you would pronounce my name Alexandra there. And basically, I was mortified when the teacher opened up these books that said witches, ghosts, UFOs. I said, oh no, they're going to kill me. Can I leave now, please? And I said, he wrote those? What was he thinking? And so I went to my mother. She's like, honey, and it opened up my eyes to his library and why he was typing at, odd ends of the hours at night on his Smith Corona. And I said, oh. And I was probably 8, So that was the first moment that I realized what he was doing. And then, of course, that got my interest going. And then I started to read, and then I started to pick up on the apartment. And wherever I went, I started to pay a little bit more attention to my surroundings, and it was just almost like something hit me over the head, probably one of his books. And I said, this is interesting, and I was drawn to it immediately, almost like it fit like a glove, that it was very comfortable to be around witches and warlocks and to see apparitions cross me and then disappear.
Right.
Or come in and out of the apartment. And then I started having things happen where one night I would experience, I had a moment where I called it the ghostly nighttime visitor, and I had published an article in the UK for Paranormal magazine where I got the impression that I was not alone in my room suddenly. I was fine, now I'm not fine. And I felt something touch my body, and I got these tingly feeling, like when your hand goes numb. And I couldn't move. I wanted to move. I should have moved. I couldn't. And I was petrified like a rock. And I felt like somebody was invading my space. And then I heard something in my room move, and I knew what it was because it sounded like coins rattling. And I had a coin can way up high on the bookcase, and it rattled. And I said, that's it. I'm dead. Something's coming after me. And, of course, as a kid, your imagination soars. Even if you grow up with the ghost hunter, you're just thinking 20 million things. And I stayed put, which probably felt like hours was probably moments.
Right.
And then I was able to, lift the covers off and breathe, and the light came up through the window, and my sister was up getting ready for school. And I looked down at the floor, and the coin can was knocked on the floor. And so I knew, and I put things away. I was a pretty neat kid, and I felt invaded. I said, who was in here? And it didn't feel okay to me. And so the question always popped up, do you think your father brought things home? And as an adult now, when I look back on those moments that I can kind of now understand better, I think perhaps so. And I know he doesn't feel that things can travel, but they can sometimes. I feel personally I'm very protected, like it's weird. Like I could have had so many horrible things happen to me. And all throughout my life, I've always had things, but nothing ever came at me or at my family or anything. It was always like it's just they can't touch us because we're protected by the guides to do our work. And that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's probably why I was born from my father to continue on, and I need that strength around me. I need that protection in order to carry on the work. I don't know.
Did your father do the prayers too?
Yeah, he did, and the mediums that worked with him did, and everybody was very spiritual and peaceful. But he also talked back to the entities. He wasn't taking any you-know-what off of them either just because they were transparent meant nothing.
Right.
He was just like, now listen here.
Right.
I am Dr. Holzer, and I'm telling you to get out. See, there comes Amityville. You see, that's where that comes from.
Right.
So, he commanded them. It was almost like he was Moses for the ghosts, He would not allow them to frighten him or to get the better of him.
They'll eat the fear, I say.
Yeah.
That's what they live off of.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's just I'm a lot like him. That's why I said I'm very ballsy because I refuse. You can't come with me. You're not welcome. You're not invited. It's not happening. It's just not going to happen. And I feel like I have a very strong force around me that protects me to continue what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. But I'm certainly not going to do what he did because he did it full time.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And so I have to be realistic, and I know that there's a different path for me, and I have to accept that, and I just have to kind of go down that path and see where it leads.
Well, I have a number of accounts in the stories that I've collected where it is literally a contest for territory. In other words, sometimes you just have to do what your father did and what you do.
Yep.
You know, say no, get out. This is my
Yep.
place. You know,
Yep.
and so that's and also I've heard that prayer. I mean, let's face it, it's part of it, and it certainly is. It calls on both a higher power and also on an inner power.
Right.
And so I think that's very important as well. And so you're. Alexandra, you're covering all the bases here. This is great.
I'm trying. Listen, can I tell you? I have nothing. What is it? Fear nothing but fear itself, or something like that. I always say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. There's no point in being afraid. I've had 4 children. Now that was scary.
Yeah.
That was the scariest thing I ever did because that was the worst pain in life. Can I tell you? So, having that being said, a ghost that comes up to me and gets up in my grill and says, "Boo, yeah, okay, nice talking to you. You're not going to cross tonight, buddy. I'll have to come back for you. I get scared easily, which is funny. And that's why I think people find humor in watching me because I just completely get very animated, but you won't pull me out of the room.
Uh-huh.
I want to know now why you're scaring me, and I want to know why you're here and why you think it's okay to be here. I want to ask those questions, and that's why you need the intuitive with you, and actually more than one is good, to get that information, to get that communication going, because if we don't communicate, we're not going to know. We're going to be missing everything, and they could be there and have things to say, and we're in there for what purpose? I mean, we have to have that communication. So that's why I certainly couldn't be a practicing intuitive because I would just be focused on trying not to lose it and trying to keep everybody safe as well as myself, and I wouldn't be focusing on what they have to say. I'd be more in tune to hear what the person next to me hears,
Right.
And be that comedic buffer between the ghost and the intuitive saying, okay, so you're saying it's cold here. Well, what do you expect? Put on some pants. What do you want from me, So that's what I do.
Oh.
Terrible. But, I have a punchline. I say, you've seen one orb, you've seen them all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, your mother actually saw spirits, didn't she? Or she saw orbs? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing, what happened when her sister had passed, which was the first family member we witnessed, my sister and I, of losing anybody close, things started to happen when she came back to me. It was Earth time, 2.5 years since her passing, that I started to hear her folding the laundry saying, no, it's not happening. And that's when I felt I was chosen, Mark, that moment in my life where here you're gonna hear now. Basically, I started to document and take lots of digital photos and start having a conversation first. If I didn't have the conversation first, I wouldn't get as much turning up. But when I pulled in that energy and I really got focused, and then I started taking photos at that point, I got a lot of activity, a lot of mist moving around, a lot of orbs. And then I got this blue aura thing that sat below my waist, and it always followed me around in all the photos. And I would take, like, the mirror shots and things like that because I love the typical, oh, that's a flash. Okay, well, then what's this white thing over to the left? And what's that over to the right? That looks like a flash, but it's not. It's not reflecting. There's nothing behind the glass. There's only one mirror. You cover all your bases. It's like there's light around me. There's things moving around me. And so I told my mother, I said, you have to start taking photos. Your sister's here. I'm telling you. And so she started to, and all of a sudden she's looking, and she's like, oh, my God, there's an orb on the curtain. Oh, wait, there's one there. And she started to realize they were around her, too. And then the messages came in, and then we were going back and forth giving her information from the family that passed long, long ago. So it was there. They were always there. It was just the timing of, okay, now you're going to figure it out, and then you're going to go tell her, and she'll figure it out.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a bit of a scutch. They don't tend to give you any warning, and they certainly don't give you all the information. So you're it's like puzzles, and you don't have the time to put the pieces together, but you have to, because if they were to come and tell you, okay, the key is in the drawer on the left side, that'll unlock the car, you're fine, you're good to go. You have these like little clues. They don't, you'd win the lottery then. So I don't know. This is how they work. They work in code, and that's always my biggest thing is I wish sometimes they would just come out and say it, but maybe I'm not strong enough to get that, so.
I haven't gotten any lottery numbers yet. I'm still working on it.
Those lottery.
That's the craziest thing you hear people say all the time. Oh, you're a sensitive. Tell me who's going to win at Santa Anita, in the 5th.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I say to them, well, I'll tell you what will happen right now if you don't walk away. I can predict that.
With 100%.
There's going to be 2 hits, me hitting you, you hitting the floor. Yikes. Yeah. But I don't portray myself. I do say I'm sensitive. If somebody asks, and if I do a show, I'll say, yeah, I have the ability. I just choose not to use it unless I have to help somebody. My thing is more I like entertaining people, and I like to be charismatic to get my point across. So I do the paracomedian stuff because it really helps people kind of listen and kind of see things differently and not be so afraid. So.
Right.
Well, a lot of times when I use medium, what I'll often do is like a double-blind experiment. I will, for example, I'll pick 5 places on the Gettysburg battlefield and realize that I'm only going to have time to go to like 2. So in other words, even I don't know where we're going, so they couldn't possibly bone up historically on what happened to those different sites. So that's why Gettysburg is kind of a nice laboratory for all this. Yeah. So you can go to these places, and I'll tell you, they have astounded me on the things that, for example, we had 4 sensitives come through a place called the Lady Farm, which there's one room in it that was used as the hospital. Each one of them, we'd start in one room, and as soon as we got to that room, each one of them had a reaction. I'm not going to tell you which one it is in case you come to Gettysburg sometime. We'll take you out.
Okay, yeah, don't, yeah.
No, I won't.
No, you'll know.
Each one.
Room number 3. No.
Door number 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable when you don't you have a laboratory, historical documentation in a place like Gettysburg or anywhere, and all of a sudden sensitives come in and tell you about what happened there, and it just astounds me every time it happens.
Me too, and that's why I was Laine. I just it's the real deal, and those are the people my father surrounded himself with. Of course, as he got older, the mediums got younger. Yeah. So, but I work. I have now a team of women. They're young. They're in New York. They're standing by me to have the show. They're waiting. They believe in me, and I said this is great. I said because. The best thing that I love is to have the ability, but to hear other people who really have the knack of just getting that information, like you, Laine, where it comes out, and I sit there and I'm like, wow, really? And the ghost hits me on the head. Hello, we're here for me. I'm like, sorry, because I'm not paying attention. I'm so enthralled with the information. So I just, and I'm always, when I talk to mediums, and I'm always wondering, what do they see in me? Do they see something that's coming? And I just, every time, it amazes me.
Well, a lot of good things are coming for you.
Oh, see, now she started it. See, it's terrible, I mean, and it's like, and because I'm an Aries, I have no patience, so I'm like, well, if it's not happening today or yesterday, forget about it. So, it's terrible.
Well, we have our own little production company that we do with podcasts and things like that.
Right.
And one of the things I would love to do is have Alexandra Holzer come to Gettysburg sometime, and we'll film you, and we can interact and take you to some places, and get that out on the internet and
cool. I would love to do that. If it's something that we could do on a weekend, I would be honored to do it. And also I'd dig up those cases my father had wrote about and see where they are in location to the area. Because I know there was 2 places. I think one was a bed and breakfast just outside of Gettysburg. It wasn't too far. And I don't remember the entire story, but I think a woman had died there. There was a fire. And there was the ghost of this woman would appear, scaring the guests out of this one particular room because things were going to happen. And so I think it burnt down again, and the ghost had saved this one woman in this one room where the fire had started. So things like that. Is it Big Bass Black Inn or something like that? But That would be.
Well, we'll have to. We'll find them. We'll find them, and we'll go back, and then we'll pick some new places too.
Yeah, anything new that hasn't been done, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. Just don't take me far into the woods, because I will turn around and scream. Thank you.
No, we won't. We wouldn't do that.
It's Bigfoot. I don't do Bigfoot. Help.
Well, we'll take care of you. Don't worry.
Cool. Thank you. I look forward to that. That'll be great.
Well, my husband was jumping up and down. He was so excited that I was talking to you today.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, good Lord.
Loves your dad. Loves your dad.
Aw. Well, it's nice to hear that, because I kind of feel like, a lot of people are growing up not knowing him, and that's so sad. Like with any person in history that's done something good, you want them to still be remembered. And it's, he kind of, fell out of the game. He just stuck to writing. He didn't really go towards the media as much, and he never wanted anybody to help him. So now that I am helping him, he's 88 now, and so now he's at the end of everything. So it's a weird situation, but I'm trying to catch up as quickly as I can for him.
Aww.
Well, anybody in the field today who doesn't know the name Hans Holzer, I don't even want to talk to them. They don't have their roots. They don't have their base for any of that stuff. I mean, I kind of based my methodology. I was collecting the ghost stories on what he did. I mean, he went out, he interviewed people, he did the history of the sites,
right,
and wrote the stories, and wrote them very, very well. And rather than somebody, I like in telling a ghost story poorly. In other words, if you don't have your history, you don't do your interviews. If you tell it poorly, it's like somebody, you're walking down the street, somebody's in the bushes, and they jump out and they go boo, and you're like, oh, okay, I got scared for like 1 second, but who cares,
Right.
Whereas when you do develop the story and you have the history and you do the research and do the interviews like your father did,
right,
that makes all the difference in the world. Now all of a sudden you have data. You have stuff that you can actually start drawing. You can quantify it then,
right?
And that's exactly what he gave the field, and I hear it in you. Mm-hmm. That's what you want to do too. And
I do. I just don't have the ability yet. Like I know I need a team. I know I need a oomph behind me, and I get that, and I'm trying to get that, but I can't. It's a passion, and I don't know where it comes from. And I guess it's I'm supposed to do it. But definitely, for instance, I'm not going to learn parapsychology, but I will pick up on some of it, and I always give respect to what I'm trying to achieve, and if I can't accomplish that goal, I'll go back. I'm not going to, take it to heart and say, oh, I failed. I mean, you can only keep striving for the best. You can't fail. I mean, if you try, you're not failing. So.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I agree.
So.
Agree.
I am so glad we could speak with you today.
Thank you for talking to me. It's I love doing this, and I appreciate it, because it's pretty tough out there now. I mean, I think the field is flooded, and I would like to make a big paranormal noise and kind of become the parting seas here with Moses, and just say, listen, let's get back to basics. I mean, let's mix the new with the old and have a respect factor on that fence there. And don't come to me, and don't talk to me about Nessie, because I don't do her either. So I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Good Lord.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, and definitely keep in touch with me. Let me know about that. I definitely want to go to Gettysburg. It's been gnawing at me in the back of my head. I know I need to go there. I feel to go there, but with the 4 kids and I don't have anybody, my husband's at work, I'm kind of, stuck like a ghost. So. Yeah. Well, we definitely will stay in touch, and I'm really glad we had an opportunity to talk with you, because it's it's good to hear someone your age, our age, basically contemporary, who who's not who's not doing goofy stuff like what we're seeing on TV now. It's really good to have somebody that's grounded, and we'll definitely do something together sometime soon. Good. I'm looking forward to it. That would be wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. All right, Alexandra. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Laine. I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay. Absolutely. Wonderful. Take care and stay well. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
And thank you to our listeners for listening to Ghost Talkers on theghostchannel.tv. Rest in peace.